These guys are nothing but a bunch of hacks, from Biden to Kamala Harris to Chuck Schumer to Nancy Pelosi, the whole lot of them. That's what they are, and they are attempting their own kind of government takeover without the votes to do it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Trish Regan Show. I am Trish. Quick reminder, I'm on Locals. Go there, support me there. Make sure you're on Rumble as well, two of the best platforms out there that really are champion speech right now. Anyway, I just want to talk about what these guys are really doing. When you think about the likes of Pelosi and Biden and Schumer and Harris and all of them trying to effectively take over our government, right, by getting rid of the filibuster, something that, by the way, they've used in the past. So I'm not sure what this really gains them ultimately, unless they can really and truly take over the way they want to. And that's what this strikes me as. I mean, they go on and on and on about what the right is doing and how the right is trying to take over, and they're using social media to do. I'm sorry, but what do you think you guys are doing with this whole filibuster nonsense? Again, I want to credit Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema for actually being the adults in the room saying, wait a second, this isn't healthy for the country. It's not, and it needs to stop. But you know what else is not healthy for this country is the my way or the highway approach to everything that's going on right now. There's no discussion. It's Joe Biden pointing the finger and saying, you know what, if you don't agree with me, you're a racist. You know, this filibuster has to be dealt with because it's a bunch of racists that are in the way. I mean, it's so infuriating that they sort of try and reduce everything to sort of the worst possible thing you can say about someone. And the reason they're doing that is because it's worked, right? There's no comeback for that. What do you say? I mean, the minute you try and even respond to accusations like that, you're on the defensive, and it makes it look as though it's true. And so this has been their point of attack. I mean, let's turn it the other way here, because what they have done via things like critical race theory in our school systems, via the discrimination, frankly, against anybody who now is actually white or Caucasian, that is problematic. I mean, they're assuming so much less just based on the color of your skin. I don't think this is how Martin Luther King would have wanted it as we go into Martin Luther King Day weekend here. I don't think this is what he wanted at all. He wanted us to see beyond color. And yet the state of New York is prioritizing non-whites and Latinos for COVID treatment. Think about that. So if you're a wealthy investment banker that was born in Colombia, you get preference over the poor auto worker in the state of New York that is barely getting by. That doesn't make any sense. But this is what they're doing. They're manipulating the use of race, all to get what they want, which ultimately is power. Power over everything and everyone. And I don't know about you, but I have had it. It's, again, one of the reasons why I'm on Locals. And when I hear the president, and I'm on Rumble, when I hear the president say things like this, and I'm going to play this clip for you, it really, really makes me angry, because there is an attempt by our federal government to shut down any dissidents. And in this particular case, he's talking about COVID, because he believes that anything that might be controversial or outside of sort of his realm of what he's trying to push is problematic for the country. I mean, I'm just a big believer, you know me, in everybody being able to get as much information as they can and use that information to inform yourself. Don't rely entirely on one set of facts. Don't forget, remember the former New York Times reporter that got kicked off of Twitter because he actually said, look, the vaccines, they'll help maybe, prevent you from getting extremely ill, but they're not going to actually save you from getting coronavirus altogether. And sure enough, he was right, but they didn't want to hear that at the time. And so there's been this total effort by the administration to clamp down on anything that would be dissonant to what they are saying. And Joe Biden admitted it yesterday. Listen.
I make a special appeal to social media companies and media outlets. Please deal with the misinformation and disinformation that's on your shows. It has to stop. COVID-19 is one of the most formidable enemies America has ever faced. We've got to work together, not against each other.
Okay, so they're using COVID again. I mean, remember? the uproar over me saying they were using coronavirus for political purposes back in March 2020, which they were and they continue to do now. They're using it, in this case, they're using it to try and get a hold of the narrative that they want everyone to believe in. And that is problematic because you know what? I would tell you this, Americans, they see through all of it. They see through all of it. He has just done a miserable job with our economy. Inflation numbers prove that, both on producer prices, both on consumer prices, the highest levels we've seen since 1982. I mean, Americans know what's going on. So from inflation to foreign affairs, I'm going to tell you, by the way, how Russia's like knocking on our door here, trying to put troops in Venezuela because this team, this idiotic team, can't get anything right from Afghanistan to Russia to Ukraine to now Venezuela. But first, a quick word from one of our sponsors. With all this chaos going on in the world, I think this is really important that you think about how you're investing right now. You need a diversified portfolio. I keep saying that over and over and over again. I'm going to keep telling you that over and over again. Part of that diversification, in my view anyway, includes something like precious metals, specifically, at least in terms of what I invest in, gold. Gold is one of those things that you can rely on sort of day in, day out over the long term. I mean, day in and day out, it goes up and down like anything else. But historically, it has shown for thousands of years that it holds its value. Gold is something that's tangible, that you can physically hold. And I like that. I mean, I like that as an investor who's concerned about inflation. I'm predicting now double-digit inflation by spring. I've been spot on for the last year and a half in my inflation predictions. And I do think it's going to get worse before it gets better here. I'm glad to see that the Federal Reserve is finally stepping up to the plate, taking this seriously. Look, it's a political problem. I get that Joe Biden is not going to love when the Fed raises interest rates because that has a restriction-like effect on the economy. But it's a political problem for the Democrats either way. So it's got to be dealt with. It also means he's got to get rid of these Build Back Better ideas where he's going to spend $2 trillion more. That would negate anything that the Fed is able to do. So inflation is here and it's going to continue getting worse, which is why I want you to call my friends over at Legacy Precious Metals. Great guys over there, family-run business. They've been in business for decades. 1-866-589-0560 is their phone number. 1-866-589-0560. LegacyPMInvestments.com is their website, and they have a free guide that you can download. It'll help you navigate this space. But let me get back to just exactly why I am so worried about what's happening right now in terms of Russia and the threat of them putting troops in Venezuela. Look, it's quite real. I think that this administration, the State Department, doesn't know its ass from its elbow, so to speak, when it comes to actually dealing with foreign affairs. I've been highly disappointed, highly disappointed. Let me emphasize that this is a president who, after all his decades on Capitol Hill and around things like foreign policy. By the way, he's been like literally wrong on every decision and vote he's ever made. But you would think that he would understand the nuance of situations maybe just a little bit better. But as I've told you before, they're living in their never land, where they think everybody wants to be part of their club. You know what? Some people don't want it. Some people really and truly don't want it. Like Vladimir Putin, who's like, yeah, good luck. I just want you guys out of Ukraine. And he's a realist who's going to do whatever he needs to do to make sure that we're not encroaching on his border, including, why not, looking at putting troops on our border. And because we have done such a poor job with Venezuela, for goodness sakes, I mean, guys, it's a country that has so many cultural similarities to us. It's a country very rich in oil, which, I'm sorry, we still need, and yet we have effectively surrendered that to China, to Russia, to Iran, to all of our enemies. I mean, there is a thing that we used to employ called the Monroe Doctrine. Well, that's been thrown out the window. I want you to see the headline in the Wall Street Journal today. Here we go. Russia threatens to deploy troops near U.S. Russia threatens to deploy troops near U.S. One of the Russian bigwigs went on to Russian TV. This would be the Deputy Foreign Minister, Sergei Rybkov. I'm sure I mutilated that name, but you get the idea. The foreign minister, deputy foreign minister, saying, quote, military infrastructure to Venezuela or Cuba would actually possibly be put into action. Quote, I don't want to confirm anything. I will not rule out anything. Depends on the actions of our American colleagues. So he said this to RTVI, Russia TV, in an interview in Moscow. Of course, I mean, why not? What if I'm Russia and I'm like, wait a second, I'm really getting kind of sick of the Americans, and you know what? Biden and I just clearly are on two different sort of wavelengths. We're not able to communicate. He's going to keep putting troops, or potentially he's going to be problematic in terms of my troops that I've been putting on the border with Ukraine. So why not, show him just exactly what it feels like? I mean, from his perspective, and I'm not saying this is right, because I think NATO is there for a reason, but he doesn't want NATO in his backyard, just like we don't really want him in our backyard in Venezuela. Venezuela, which is what, a 3-hour trip from Miami. So this is a conflict that could easily be avoided if you had some smart people in the room, but we do not. We get the likes of Antony Blinken, who is just awful. I mean, really awful. John McCain, I should dig this clip up and play this for you, because John McCain, the one thing he really, really got was what a bad egg Blinken is. And he actually went up, and there's this great clip of him on speaking to Congress about why Blinken should not have been nominated as a deputy under Obama. And he's like, very rarely would I do this, but this guy is that bad. And I would just say the guy is out in left field, and you've got a president that's out in left field that's barely awake. And the combo, well, that's disastrous and could lead us in a very, very bad direction. Everyone, I'm so glad you're here. I'd love to have you, not just on my Rumble channel, YouTube, of course, where I am daily, Facebook, all those things, but it's really important. Places like Rumble, and also Locals, which is part of the Rumble company. Locals, where I am, you can support the show. You can actually interact directly with me there on that particular channel. It's trishregan.locals.com. I would love to have you. It's really important that we keep all of this discussion going right now. So I will see you there on Locals, as well as my website, trishintel.com. You can sign up for my newsletter there at trishintel.com. And I want you to have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. See you next week.